provincial Japan, in a hill town in the Japanese Alps, Matsumoto, many miles from Tokyo, and she was born at the end of the 1920s. And so her childhood and young adulthood were very much marked by the experience of war and the associated deprivations of the war and the years of the American occupation. Her parents it was a substantial sort of bourgeois home. Her parents had a business growing and then marketing seeds. So she was brought up in an environment on the edge of the countryside amongst fields of flowers and the proliferation of seeds, and without being sort of too cliched about it, this early childhood is strongly imprinted on all her subsequent work. And autobiographical readings of Kusama lend themselves very nicely to interpretations. It's very easy to see a lot of her childhood, both relationships with family and just the physical nature of the environment she was brought up in, recurring at different times and continuing to do so today in the recent work. But she was a precocious artist, and I don't think there was ever a moment where she decided she wanted to be an artist. That's what she was. She drew from infancy, and she drew with consummate skill. I don't know whether any of you saw some of you saw the de Kooning show in New York a few months ago, and those early drawings were completely exquisite, where he just was such an amazing draftsman. Kusama too, in the really just the traces of her work from her teenage years that exist, but just was unbelievably gifted. She could draw from observation with consummate skill. So when people say she's she's a self-taught artist, that worries me, because she was enormously talented, and then she did in 1948 she did attend a year of art school training in Kyoto, I think possibly against the wishes of her family. All sorts of reasons. A Japanese middle-class milieu would have not wanted their daughter to become an artist at that time. Women were very, very protected within Japanese social and familial environments at that time, but she did go to art school, and she very briefly but rather substantially mastered the traditional Nihonga style of painting that was very soon then to go out of fashion because it was tainted by its association with nationalist rule. But it was a system of painting based on observation and a kind of personal symbolism. And Kusama subsequently destroyed many of the paintings from this early period, but this is one that she retained, and it's entitled Lingering Dream. It's from 1949. And it's an image of decaying sunflowers with butterflies and in a landscape setting. And it's beautifully observed, full of the symbolism of life and death, the life cycle, nature, memento mori. But as you get up closer to it, you see that the detail of the veins and the structure of the plant itself begins to take on aspects of the human body. And you see here an arm, and you see up here organs of the human body. So there's a kind of vegetal, physical, animal, human thing going on, which I think is very powerful, particularly in the context of the post-war era. And there are many references in these early works to the war and its aftermath. This, as I said, is the only extant painting from that period and that style, but very soon afterwards, Kusama kind of came out as an experimental artist and began a journey which really continues of experimenting with images and styles and techniques that she came across in myriad forms, through exhibitions, through books, through postcards, through magazines. And in an extraordinary short period of time, she really took on board the legacy of French Surrealism. And the next room you will see a group of almost 30 tiny watercolours and gouaches, which just explore in the most incredible, but I'm getting a bit hyperbolic because I think they're so beautiful, unbelievable language and technique that she would really probably have mostly observed second-hand through reproductions, but techniques of frottage and decalcomania, so she must have been looking at Max Ernst, but also the sort of aquatic biomorphism of Miro. One thinks of his constellation paintings, and it's just a sort of what's the word? Pandora's box of experimentation and creativity. So all this time she was living in Matsumoto, but beginning to show in Tokyo, but beginning to harbour this dream of escape. And I think the constraints of family, the constraints of gender, the constraints of being Japanese, just it was just her ambition to engage in a wider world and expose herself and be exposed to new influences propelled her to really take some extraordinary initiative.